Hello, and welcome to CLEA'S WORLD. I am Clea, and today marks the beginning of a new BQH Hypnosis session. I'll be reading, as usual, from a transcript of a section of the session. And today, again, is the part right after the induction. So it's the very initial messages that we get from the 25th. I am excited about this new session because a lot of us have been running into a lot of snags, and we are trying to figure out what's going on behind the scenes, both at a 3D level and at a higher consciousness awareness level. And we're going to be getting some answers from the 25th. So I am looking forward to jumping in here. And as a reminder, as usual, the person who was asking me questions is Lorrayne. And when I refer to me, I'm referring to myself under hypnosis, which means that the answers are coming from 25th. All right. The premise to this first message that we're getting from 25th is that right before the session, before we started the hypnosis session, Lorrayne and I were discussing the fact that there are a lot of snags that are happening, as mentioned, at 3D level. And a lot of things, it's not just that. The 25th has previously told us that we are wanting to maintain the shell of this 3D reality going. And the reason is because many of us, well, all of us are doing the work of becoming Neo, meaning that all of us are realizing we create our reality at a higher self level. So behind the scenes, in that sense, many of us do not want to become consciously aware of it right now. So we might become consciously aware of it when it comes to certain things, but we don't want the full veil to come down, because this would entail knowledge of what's been happening on this planet that is even more dire, and that would make us extremely emotional to a point where we wouldn't be able to function. It's just we have to stay here, or we have decided to stay here a few more months. We don't want that to happen. And you will know where you are in this scale of how much you want to allow in or not. For example, one way to see where you are, and there's no right or wrong answer here. It doesn't really matter where you are. Okay, some of us have decided that we're going to postpone this work until we get to New York. So nothing wrong with that. So what you might use, though, as a measure of where you are emotionally is if you remember your dreams, for example, and that's not the only way to know. But a lot of us don't even want to remember our dreams, and that's because information, for those of us who do want to remember our dreams, is coming through dreams. And I've had some really emotional dreams that I will be sharing with you as we go. And I realize and fully understand, even on a conscious level, why many of us, including myself, do not want to know certain things right now, because we wouldn't be capable of handling them. And the 25th does refer to these things. But again, so because of wanting to keep the shell in place, we are running to 3D snags. So Lorrayne and I were asking ourselves, okay, fine, so we're here, want to keep this in place, but what's the story with the new crap coming up? It's not just that we're keeping things, the status quo. There's always new stuff coming in. Why? And this is what the 25th commented on at the beginning of the session. So I'm going to start reading here. Lorrayne, we have quite a few questions, and we are looking forward to your insight and wisdom. We're also looking forward to you bringing a broader, deeper perspective. You've heard our conversation that we just had. We are frustrated, and we need some alleviation from that frustration. So welcome the 25th. Is there any information that you would like to impart at the beginning of the session? Me. We realize that you're frustrated. We would like to answer your question because, of course, these messages that you have expressed, these feelings you have expressed, are a question. You are at a point in your life where you have experienced much in this existence, this particular current, what you refer to as your current life. And you've grown very quickly through multiple stages of awareness. Because of this, you've reached the point where you're ready to tackle more, but you feel trapped into the old paradigm of reality you have initially set up for yourselves. Now, of course, while you're changing reality at all times, all external realities are a reflection of your internal intentions and manifestation. And you know this at an intellectual level, You still believe what you see with your eyes. You still believe nothing is changing. You still believe everything is as it's always been. And you tell yourself you're ready to move on because really nothing is new. Everything is old. Everything is boring. Everything is repetitive. Everything is extremely tedious. Now, we would like you to keep in mind that you are wanting, we say this all the time, you are wanting to keep the shell in place. And the reason you keep the shell in place is because even though you're ready for more and for better, you're also trying to shield your own emotions. Because imagine, right now you're dealing with so much at an emotional level just because of the repetitiveness of the reality, the way you see it here. What would it be if you were exposed to what reality really has looked like here? What would it be? Think of just one incident, and I'm sure all you can do this. Even just one incident of something extremely dark in proportion to what you've been exposed to here at a conscious level, and how that has unsettled you. What would you think if we told you? How would you feel if we told you that is nothing compared to what has actually taken place? This is why you are creating. You are keeping in place a shell that is tedious to you, because tedious means you don't have to deal with the extreme upheaval and upset of actually dealing with what this is. So at an awareness level, you understand and you realize that you are a source, because many of you know this, you feel this. It's not just intellectually, you feel this. Lorrayne was just mentioning, she knows it at her core, and of course she does. Clea is also very aware. Clea has very quickly stopped going to the outside to wait for things, which paradoxically is the reason why she is so bored, because she realizes there's nothing to look forward to from the outside. Everything that's going to happen on the outside is ourselves setting it up. And so she's saying, why is reality still like this? We want it to be like this. The fact is, while we are very aware compared to what we think of our awareness, say a few years ago, or when we came in on this planet, either in this life or ever in previous lives as well, while we are at a very high level of awareness, we still have so many limitations, so many emotional limitations. In fact, we have a question coming up about this, about emotions, where emotions work very differently on this planet compared to what we think of emotions at a higher self level. In fact, at a higher self level, there are no emotions. There is only knowledge. There is only what is. So when we think of emotions, we really, truly are thinking of the matrix. And so at a higher dimensional level, or really, we've explained to you, it's not really a matter of dimensions, but at a higher consciousness level on the earth, for example, we still have emotions, but we will be better equipped to deal with them. And this is why we're waiting to expose the entire reality, what's happened on this planet. And until then, this will look very tedious. It's not because there is nothing to look forward to. All of you are so excited to finally move on, because imagine how you feel right now. You have felt like this in many, many lifetimes here before. And yet you come back and come back and come back to do what you had decided you were going to do here. So now you can imagine how excited you are at the thought that you don't have to come back anymore. You're finally done with this, like done, done, done. At the same time, of course, we're chomping at the bits. Every day counts for us here because time feels very different, very, very slow here. Reality is much more fluid, as we mentioned, but still, in terms of the quickness of our consciousness, this is all still very, very slow. And therefore, it does feel like we are trapped, like you are trapped here. But it's not quite the case. We understand it doesn't feel that way, but you truly have chosen for this to happen this way, because truly, this is a better option among all the options available. You've looked at all your options of how you wanted to experience this last stretch. You've chosen this not because it is a deal from a human perspective, but because it is the best possible way to deal with things, to prepare for things, to transition through things compared to what could have happened here. And many things could have happened. You know perfectly well that there really isn't a lot of fun to be had here anymore for people like you and Lorrayne, who have experienced so much, especially from an emotional, intellectual standpoint, from a consciousness standpoint. There really isn't very much that is new here. I mean, we've done this, not just in this lifetime. We've done this a million times already. And this is what we refer to when we say that, unfortunately, on this planet, we haven't had a lot of fun. Now, have there been essences very excited to come here recently? And by recently, we mean in the last, especially in the last reset, during the last reset, because of the expectation that we would take this down? Yes. There have been essences that have been very excited. There are essences that to this day, while you are here so bored, there are essences that to this day, the few essences that are left behind, not many at this point, that still find excitement in going outside and cheering for their team, so to speak. Like, for example, you know, whatever the team might be. It might be the dark side. It might be what they believe to be the light side. It might be the white hats. It might be whatever it is. The problem with you, for example, Lorrayne, is that because of what you have realized, we don't want to really talk about levels of consciousness because, as you well know, we are all equal. There is nobody who's more advanced than anyone else. At the same time, because of what you have set yourself up for your own alignment, because of the work you've done to get to this point, to get to today, Monday, not just in this lifetime, but in all the previous lifetimes, you find yourself today on a Monday in this particular emotional state where you're like, all right, there's really nothing new going on here, is there? And we don't just expect you to take this at face value and say, oh, we're hoping, because we know that Clea is thinking this. Clea is very suspicious, has always been very suspicious of people that discount the present experience by giving you in exchange, you know, the hopium. For example, with religion, the fact that, yes, there will be something better one day, don't worry, even if this experience in this lifetime is very disappointing or very painful to you, no worries, because as soon as you die, you're going to go to heaven. Therefore, yay, it's so exciting. That's not good enough for Clea. Clea wants an experience that is fun here, and we understand that. We don't mean to tell you, okay, because we're telling you now that you set this up, you should be all cheerful about it because it is your choice. We are telling you this as information. It's all we are doing. We are not trying to convince you or persuade you that you should feel excited about what's happening, because again, it is a better option among all the options available that you have, because you strategize all of this. We're not here to try to cheer you up. We are merely letting you know what is happening and why things are looking this way right now, and also why you're feeling this way. So we will say this, you're not out of control, and you know this. And the fact is that at a very core level, because you are a person of conviction, both of you, Clea and Lorrayne, you're people of conviction, you know. At the end of the day, you are connected. You're continuously aware of your connection, and you know that you are in charge. So really your frustration comes from the fact that, okay, I'm in charge, but then why is my reality so uninspiring? And this is what we've been trying to say. Reality is very uninspiring. When we said that life has not been fun here for a long time, it really has meant that it's not only not fun at a 3D level, but really at an emotional satisfaction level for people who have wanted, like you're doing right now, to reach a different level of awareness, a higher level of awareness. So really it's been, if you want to think of it, negative in that way, in that you have had to be so aware because you've realized this even more so than somebody else who might have aligned with a different destiny. And we say destiny as in the path that they set for themselves. Obviously, there is no external destiny imposed on the essence. But compared to somebody else who might have come in and said, I think this is wonderful. I wanted to try 3D forever. Let's enjoy it to the fullest extent. Let's believe the government is my friend. Let's believe that everything is wonderful. Money will solve everything. Maybe I do have money and I can try everything that's available on this planet, where unfortunately, most of the things are low vibration. But I don't think of it that way. I think of it as they're all exciting. Drinking, taking drugs, dancing the night away, whatever it might be. We're just showing an average, say, maybe a teenager or a young adult who is just now finally getting a chance to experience life without parental control or whatever that might look like. You see, when you think back, all of us have done some of this to some extent. And we weren't thinking about the 25th dimension. We weren't thinking about, oh my goodness, the government is imposing on me, or, oh my goodness, there is no freedom here. Of course, there are parts of this planet where life doesn't quite look this way. But we've aligned ourselves with having a very long period of time, very long stretch of time, where we've been able to live very lightheartedly and to be fully immersed in the game we're playing, because we did enjoy it at a 3D level. We know, for example, Clea has very much enjoyed her life, especially the extensive traveling, the ability to make so many friends. She loves socializing, and so she wasn't thinking about these things. And while, of course, there's always, the connection has always been there, as there is for everyone, whether you acknowledge it or not, she didn't have these long periods or such deep periods of tediousness because she was still enthralled enough by this reality to be distracted. Unfortunately, the veil is very, very thin, especially for people like you right now. So this is no longer the case. So what are we going to do about it? The fact is, there is a reason why you're experiencing this now, because we already are doing something about it. We have always known we would get to this point. We've always known. And again, we picked this as the least of the issues we could deal with at this point. For example, had we set this up differently, you would be dealing with watching tribunals on television telling you some very, very horrible things. Would that be a better choice? We do believe that, and obviously because of how things have turned out, we know this, that you have no choice on this path. You do not want disclosure. You do not want anything that is horrible. Now, of course, things that are less than ideal are still happening. Again, we have a question coming up about this as well. For example, you're still pushing for this thing, even while it's being recalled. Well, we know that it hasn't been tested for transmission. We know all these things. Even from a 3D perspective, they're still trying to add it to the childhood schedule. For example, in the United States, it still appears as if they're just continuing full steam ahead. Doesn't matter, as always, as historically has been the case. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. And this has always been the source from a 3D perspective of the idea that we're powerless. It doesn't matter what we want. Same thing came up in the group this morning about the Super Soldier program. Excuse me. It always feels like there's some big, powerful force out there that will move forward with the future they envision. And it doesn't matter what we want or don't want. The truth is, none of this is real. None of this really happens the way they tell us. And even just moving ahead with adding the thing to the childhood schedule, not only is not going to happen, even if it did happen, it's going to be recalled, as we all know. It's over. Of course, they continue their lives just like you, Lorrayne, continue your life, just like Claire continues her life. We wake up, it's Monday morning, this is what I have to do. This is what they do. The pharmaceutical company, it's their job. They've paid enough people. They're all in cooperation. It's a collaboration between the pharmaceutical companies and and I cannot say this name, but it's the 3-letter agency that's supposed to be in charge of making recommendations for our health. So good of them. So it's a collaboration between the pharmaceutical companies and this entity. And this entity is simply another arm of the pharmaceutical companies. And so this is their job. They wake up on a Monday and they know it's on their agenda. We need to push this to increase sales. That's all. It's not because, oh, the dark is doing this and it's doing that. This is their life. This is their routine. Just like it is your routine, Lorrayne, to go and check on your cats and feed them because they need food, or to go about checking on your garden, or maybe you need to make some pickles, okay? This is very much par for the course. It's not that things are worsening. It is not that they're completely discarding and disregarding at a higher self level what we are wanting. We already said this is a shell. And what we mean by a shell is that while these people at a 3D level, they're still going through the motions. Keep in mind, most of them are NPCs. So for sure, they're just going through motions. They're robots. The intention behind it is no longer there. Doesn't matter what this looks like from a 3D perspective. We are going to where we need to go, which is we're going to have this thing recalled. And so you can imagine if they do decide to pass it and they put it on the childhood schedule, what's going to happen when, or what would happen if we wanted to go through seeing the dynamic of where this would take to the full extent, you know, the law of consequences. We will see that and think, what else have they passed in the childhood schedule that's completely untested? Do you see? We said this before. This recall is not about the thing for the famous flu. I can't say these words, so sorry for the charade, the game we're playing here at this point. All right, so this recall is not about the famous flu, you know, cure at all. It's about people saying to themselves, the people that couldn't see before, obviously you already know this, saying to themselves, oh wow, what else have they done? This is all there is to it. This is just a symbol. It's just a tip of the iceberg. It's just a symbol of what has transpired here. Now, because of this iceberg being as big as it is, we don't want to deal with that, because talk about tediousness, but also it becoming painful, because even for us, well, you and Claire, for example, have this type of awareness where you're aware of a lot of things, even though you have not seen them or heard them discussed necessarily at a 3D level or lived through them at a 3D level. The fact is, you also will be very emotional. We talked to you, Lorrayne, about this in the last session when we said, don't assume that because you've done so much work, which is an exorbitant amount of work that you have done, obviously, to reach the level of awareness you have now, don't assume that emotionally you're there. Don't assume that because you have done that work, you will be better equipped to handle certain things here. None of us are. We are human. And this is why we have decided that we do not have the strength and the stamina to handle this. But we will handle it on your earth because we'll have a more clear understanding of things. Well, we know we are all one here. The truth is, the veil, the pretension, you know, what you guys like to call the veil, is still in place. And because of it still in place, things that you know at an intellectual level and not being elaborated at an emotional full body level. As an example, it will just tell you about one thing that should prove this to you. When you have upsetting dreams, these dreams, all they're doing is showing you a tiny little sliver of reality. And already you wake up all anxious, all emotional. We know this has happened to Claire as well. We showed her something about reptilians and she woke herself up. She couldn't even elaborate it in dream state when it's basically her higher self. Her perspective is that of her higher self. So you see, we do believe we are ready, but the truth is we are not capable at a human level where we are right now because of how the frequency works here. We are not capable. We wouldn't be able to handle it. We wouldn't be able to handle things. So in a way, we're not saying you should be grateful that you're just bored as opposed to what the alternative might be. But we are saying when you looked at all the options, you selected this for a reason. This is not happening by chance. And I think that without us trying, again, to give you hopium of any kind, I think you recognize that none of this is happening by chance. And so we do hope that actually just this realization at internal level, because we know that many of you are aware that everything happens because we set it up a certain way, you will recognize this and be satisfied with the fact, or at least let it suffice for now, with the fact that there is a reason why things are working out this way. And the reason is not because obviously we're out of control and somebody else is imposing their reality on us. No, the reason is because it could be a lot worse. And on this planet, unfortunately, we said this from the beginning, these are our choices. It is never about greatness on this planet. It's not about, oh, it could be so much better. We haven't had a lot of high quality choices here. We mostly pick between, okay, this is going to be horrible and this is just dreadful. So all right, we'll go with dreadful. We understand as we say these words through Claire. We understand how they sound. But we also know that you'll recognize that what we are saying is the truth of how things have transpired here. What things here on this planet have been the ideal. All of us, even at 3D level, could conceive how to recreate this reality a million times better. Why is it not like that? And this is the gist of the issue here. It's that the vibration is just not being available. So even in this particular instance, we're taking this down and we're saying, okay, we're doing all these unheard of things now during this transition. Bottom line is, we work within the confines of what's been an accepted reality, an accepted way to play the game on this planet. Because we already said this, we are not going to transform this planet into a new Earth. So we're not going to have the transition looking the way that many would wish it to look like. All of a sudden, we see the governments fall, but it's all la, 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 finally. It would never, even from an intellectual, rational point of view, it would never look like that. A government falling would be a complete disaster. And we do mean it falling as in collapsing, never to be seen again, not just, a few politicians leaving and a few others replacing them. We wouldn't know what to do with ourselves. There would be complete chaos. And that's what we're referring to. So again, we're not here trying to cheer you up. We're not speaking to you just to comfort you. We completely understand how difficult this entire situation is. And all we want to say is, you already know this is the least problematic way of dealing with that. It could be so much worse. And again, this is the best we can aspire to here on this planet right now. It's less worse. And this is what you're living through. So really, truly, we're not saying you should be grateful, because at the end of the day, it's you. You caused this. You can be grateful to your higher self, of course. But we are saying that when you really compare to what even your own imagination, 3D imagination, what could have been, or what could still happen if we decided to play it differently, maybe seeing horrible things being shown on television or whatever it is, how would you actually be? You'll probably miss the times when you were bored. So we completely understand where you're coming from. We're not trying to take away any of the credibility of your emotions. Your emotions, of course, are always on point. The fact is, you know what is going on, and you're dealing with it as well as you can. However, because you don't lie to yourself, you're aware that this game is, you're basically aware this is what you've been working on. You're aware of exactly what's going on, and you're telling yourself, why are we still here? We understand. Lorrayne, thank you. What choices we've given ourselves, bad and really bad. She was laughing at me. Yeah, exactly. I hope you enjoyed this video. I look forward to sharing more from this session with you, and I'll see you in the next video soon. Take care and bye-bye.